We are ready.
All right. Well, first of all, as minister of the Fourth Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Westchester, New York, I wish to welcome all of you in New York, and I wish to welcome all of the people from Elkhart this morning, and officially introduce my wife, the Reverend Amy DeBeck, who has been the minister of UU Elkhart since 2008. I want to welcome you all to our worship service this morning. It's going to look a little different than what our Westchester folks are used to, and it'll look a little different than our Fairfax folks are used to, as Amy pointed out earlier, that we're used to pre-recording and posting on YouTube. So I hope you all enjoy this morning, and I hope you all get something from this morning. So welcome to you all. My pronouns are he, him, and his. And now let's go to the pre-recorded UUFE board welcoming.
Good morning, and welcome to the virtual Sunday service of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Elkhart. We are a welcoming community, encouraging religious freedom, nurturing individual spiritual and ethical growth, celebrating diversity, promoting a just and sustainable world. My name is Ryan Gill, and I'm a member of the board of this congregation. Welcome to you all, and thank you for tuning in today.
Al, who's going to be our board?
Yeah, it's me.
Okay.
Good morning. My name is Harold Stillman, and I'm currently serving as Vice President of the Board of Trustees. Welcome to the Fourth UU and our online worship service. We are all welcome here. We extend a special welcome to visitors. We're glad you're joining us this morning for our virtual worship. We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation, seekers after truth, bound by no dogma, restricted by no creed. In the spirit of our common humanity, relying on reason and freedom through the warmth of others, and with personal commitment, we seek to grow in understanding of ourselves and the world, and to serve our fellow human beings. If you are new to our faith community, you can learn more about the Fourth UU by visiting our website at www.fourthuu.org. You can always learn more about the Unitarian Universalist faith by visiting www.uua.org.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I don't know if I'm supposed to wait for the picture to go away, but I'm going in. My name is Amy DeBeck. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I thank you to all who gave money and gifts to our Adopt a Family program and to the Mitten Tree. Judy Darnell did a great job. Thank you. Let's remember that during this season of light, even as the first shipment of the COVID-19 vaccine leaves Portage, Michigan, this very morning, just miles from here, we still need to stay safe. Stay home if you can, especially if you don't feel well. Wear a mask, even if there's no mandate. And remember that the board at UUFE ruled that our campus is only open for essential business. We will get through this, and with great care, we'll all be together when we meet up again. This week in fellowship life, I'm pleased to announce that the mini free library that we turned into a pantry for our neighbors will resume its purpose under the guidance of the Social Justice Committee. Reminder to everyone here, Westchester and Elkhart, that Christmas Eve will be on Zoom at 7 p.m. with 7 congregations. I hope you will join us. Look at emails and on Facebook this week for the info that you need to join the virtual choir. What a delight to share this special service with you all, and thank you for joining us.
We ring the gong 3 times, once for those who came before us and made a place for us. once for those who are here now, and once for those who will come after and build on the dream.
Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. This is our covenant.
Can we say the fourth UU affirmation together?
Yes. Love
Love
is
is
the
the
spirit
spirit of
of
this
this
fellowship.
This is our great
our
covenant.
covenant.
To
To
dwell
dwell
together
together
in
in
peace,
peace.
to
To
seek the truth in
truth
love,
in love.
and to help
To
one
help
another.
one another.
Our chalice sliding this morning is from Catherine Esty, and she says, "Little flame, light the tender kindling of our souls, and soon a roaring blaze shall be the warmth and love and community from this little spark. May a fire of passion spread from heart to heart, and light our way, sweet spirit, and light our way." Good morning and welcome to worship.
Light one candle for the Maccabee children, with thanks that their light didn't die. And light one candle for the pain they endured, and their right to exist was denied. Light one candle for the terrible sacrifice justice and freedom demand. Light one candle for the wisdom to know when the peacemaker's time is at hand. Don't let the light go out, it's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through our love and our tears. Light one candle for the strength that we need to never become our own foe. And light one candle for those who are suffering pain we learned so long ago. Light one candle for all we believe in, let anger not tear us apart. And light one candle to bind us together, for peace is the song in our heart. Don't let the light go out, it's lasted so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through our love and our dreams. Don't let the light go out, it's lasted for so many years. Don't
Before we start joys or sorrows, I do want to mention that I believe today is the 4th day of Hanukkah. So if you celebrate Hanukkah, happy 4th day of Hanukkah. So now's the time for joys and sorrows.
I'll say a joy. It's just nice to see so many faces on the screen. This is it's quite a surprise. Thank you.
I heard from my son, who's a respiratory therapist in Charlotte, that they're on what they call code yellow, which means that they've had to double up all the COVID patients. The vent system had to be jury-rigged so it doesn't totally collapse. And they are desperately short-staffed. My son is working 12-hour shifts every day. And it's a tough situation.
Hi, I'm Ingrid. I'm doing a slow roll back into 4th UU. I'm really happy to be seeing everybody, and my joy is that my husband is continuing on his healing path, and he's actually, as part of his physical therapy, he's swimming, so he's out swimming right now. Yay!
Yeah.
Thank you. It's just so good to see everybody. And as always, I thank you all from the bottom of my heart, and he does too, for just all of your support that you've given us over these past 8 months. And it's truly incredible. And yeah, I had to brag to somebody at the pool the other day. I said to some stranger, I said, "Do you see that guy in the orange shirt?" I said, "He was on a ventilator 7 months ago." And yeah, so it's pretty impressive, and I'm just really happy to be here and see you all. So thanks.
Thank you.
Well, for our Elkhart folks, Miss Ingrid, her husband had a severe bout of COVID, and I'm very happy to hear that he is on the mend.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
My cat was misbehaving.
Well, and also I want to add that 4th UU was so unbelievably supportive to me in the spring when I really could not put one foot in front of the other. And I mean, hearing from people, they made meals for me. It was just unbelievable. And I felt the love, and I still do. So thank you again, everybody. Oh, thanks, Gretchen.
So for me, Bob Shavrin, I found the Peter, Paul, and Mary rendition of "Don't Let the Light Go Out" very touching. Just did.
Hi, this is Pam from 4th UU. I want to send out healing thoughts to Kathy Van Horn, our former member who is recovering from a bad case of COVID. Yeah, but she's posting on Facebook again, so this is good. Bob, the video is from a PBS special, and Ingrid, it's wonderful to see you.
I have a few joys this morning. One, today my brother turns 49 years old, and since he is my older brother, I'm happy the fact that he'll turn 50 before I will. Another joy is on this day, way back in 1996, I was working at the Bangor Mall in Bangor, Maine. I was the voice of this big giant animatronic moose in the mall that would talk to people as they Christmas shopped. And I looked in my itty bitty little screen, and there was this face waving at me. And it was Amy Kaliza, who she and I were in a community play together, and I had lost touch with her, and she happened to come by to go shopping for her nieces and nephews. And we had our first date that evening, and we've been together ever since. So happy birthday, happy anniversary to you, my dear. So those are my joys today.
Good joys.
I'm Carol Lee in Elkhart, Indiana. And I'm happy to say that my brother has left a nursing home that he's been in quite a bit for the last couple years and is now able to live with his wife and sister-in-law and seems to be getting along pretty well. And I'm very happy about that. And I also want to mention that I'm very happy that Gordon Gibson encouraged us as a choir in the Elkhart Church to learn to sing that song, the song that the Peter Paul and Mary just sang. We thought it was too hard at first, but we learned it and we do sing it now. Thank you. It was a blessing.
I want to lift up that there are 3 folks dear to the hearts of UUFE and many others. Anyway, Mary Adams and Jim Todd are both at home. Mary was in the hospital with COVID and pneumonia, and her partner Jim was at home alone, which was really scary. Mary and Jim are both home and both recovering. And 13 years ago when I started here, there was this middle schooler, and now she's all grown up and has a fiance. Arispa Wegold has a fiance named Taylor who spent a week in the hospital with COVID, and Taylor is home down in Indy. So even for us who haven't met Taylor, but we know Heather Arispa Wegold, so we have 3 folks recovering at home this week, and I'm grateful for that.
Okay. We play this hymn. We actually sing this hymn traditionally in our sanctuary. We've been playing this hymn with each of our virtual services.
I know this is a little different for the Mohegan Lake folks, but we're taking up an offering this morning. You can see the address to send your checks to Mohegan Lake. For Elkhart, we split our offerings with a organization that has what's the word I'm thinking of? Values similar to our own. And to donate to Elkhart, for the UUFE donation, there is the Square site right there on the page. So for the Mohegan Lake folks, I want to introduce two of our musicians, Patty and Chris French. They are lovely human beings, and they can play music that will just blow your mind. So here are the Frenches during our offering this morning. You're on, dear.
I'm all teared up thinking about all of the piano recitals in that living room. This is the season of light for people in the Northern Hemisphere. Today is the 4th day of Hanukkah and the 3rd Sunday in the Advent season. December also lights up solstice, Yule, and Kwanzaa. Millions celebrated Diwali just a few weeks ago, too. This is my favorite time for holidays because my humanist leanings came to me through anthropology and sociology, and I like the earthy humanness of it all. While all religions are not the same, religions are a human reality, and they reflect our human existence with celebrations of harvest and fertility, abundance, or the end of darkness, for instance. Many years ago, the figure of Saint Lucia entered my imagination when her sainthood story was featured in a 90s movie called The Ref. It is not a deep movie, but meaning is what we make of things, right? The main character was having a traditional St. Lucia's Day dinner for her family, where they all wore these huge wreaths on their heads with candles that were lit, even the kids. My roommate at the time and I thought it was quite a remarkable scene, and for years we watched it on December 13th. When I met Kevin DeBeck in community theater, our first date was on December 13th, and we watched The Ref. So who is St. Lucia, and why should we care about her? She was born in Italy to a wealthy family about 250 years into the Common Era. Her father died when she was little, and her mother arranged her marriage for her. I don't think it's a bad idea to pick our kids' partners, but anyway, Lucia had found Jesus, and she wanted to live in the Christian faith. She was unwilling to marry the pagan man her mother chose for her. That image from The Ref of the candles around her head comes from the stories of her secretly bringing food to Christians hiding in the Roman catacombs. She put the candles around her head so she had both hands free to deliver goods to the religious refugees. Now back to that arranged marriage. We don't know if Lucia would have agreed to marriage in general if, say, mom had found a nice Christian boy for her, but when the engagement ended, her jilted suitor turned her into the Romans as a Christian, and they martyred her. The stories around saints and their martyrdom have always fascinated me, probably because I grew up unchurched. Her particular story is, of course, grisly, because martyrdom always is. Obviously, in order for a person to be canonized, the story is always based on how deep their faith is or was, and Lucia is no exception. What is interesting to me is all of the feminist messages we can get from her story. At a time when women were severely limited in life choices, she rebuked her given station for adherence to something she found important, not what her family or her culture valued. This is remarkable. She is not elevated as extolling feminist faith by the church. That's my own read on it. But this is her relevance to us today, her courage. And among those early religious dissidents known as Christians, great leadership. As these Romans were trying to kill her, which is always vividly depicted in saint stories, I could not help but feel pride when every version I've looked at says that it is part of her canonized saint story that she would not stop talking. Of course, each injury was miraculously healed, and so even as they inflicted pain and fire, she not only spoke, but her words were taunting. They were along the lines of, "Go ahead, keep hurting me. It's only going to diminish your reputation and empower more believers." These are strong words of courage and faith. Her feast day is always December 13th, which has always been interesting for us historically and now, because first of all, solstice is December 21st now in our Gregorian calendar, but in the ancient Julian calendar, solstice was December 13th. Her carefully crafted saint story of candles give credence to her as a bringer of the light of Jesus, so that it could dovetail or override the solstice traditions of Rome at the time. Her name in Latin derives from lux, or light. Even when we adopted the Gregorian calendar and solstice and Yule became the 21st, she was so popular by then that her feast day stayed the 13th. In parts of Italy and Sicily, her feast day is often marked by the bringing of gifts to children. Rather than it being Santa in those versions, or even Saint Nick, it is Saint Lucia who brings gifts to good children and coal to bad kids. I wanted to get this right for y'all. And so I checked Wikipedia. After, of course, I donated to Wikipedia to help fund it, which we should all do. And I found this out about her presence in Northern Italy. According to, I just got to interrupt here and say that David Sedaris has a fascinating story about all of the ways that Santa might come. But here's one from St. Lucia. According to tradition, she arrives in the company of a donkey and her escort, Castaldo. Children are asked to leave some coffee for Lucia, a carrot for the donkey, and a glass of wine for Castaldo. They must not watch St. Lucia delivering these gifts, or she will throw ashes in their eyes, temporarily blinding them. Now, what would we do without Wikipedia? St. Lucia was martyred in the year 304, and her deeply loved and revered story persists to this day, not just in movies or sermons. Modern feminists reinterpret her story, even as communities around the world hold processions in her name. Who knows why a legend takes hold in one part of the country or another, or in one part of the world or another. She was from Italy, but a lot of St. Lucia traditions now are of Scandinavian descent. And in this country, many Scandinavian immigrants settled in Minnesota. At Gustavus Adolphus College in St. Peter, Minnesota, where a friend of mine is a professor there, they embrace Lutheran faith and Swedish heritage. Each year, the sophomore women elect who will be their St. Lucia and her court for their St. Lucy Day procession. She doesn't have to be Lutheran or Swedish, but from the college's website, she should, quote, exemplify the qualities of courageous leadership, service to others, strength of character, and compassion. These strong qualities represent her as being a light to others. In summation, Lucias and Lucys should aspire to be feminists who are true to themselves and keep talking, simply even when the prevailing culture wishes she would stop. Kevin, what you got?
Okay, so I'm going from a different kind of Lucy, and thank you for laying out Lucia there. All right, so one of the things I most look forward to when it comes to this time of year is the Charlie Brown Christmas special. It was first broadcast in 1966 and has been on television every year ever since. And while I love the Lucan narrative that Linus delivers, I would like to talk more about Linus's big sister, Lucy. Her character was first introduced in March of 1952 and has been a main character ever since. Her creator, Charles Schulz, once described her as a fuss budget. And in looking up what a fuss budget means, Webster's dictionary describes a fuss budget as a fussy or needlessly fault-finding person. And based on the time in which she was created, a woman who held her own opinions and knew her own mind might be seen as mean or uncaring. Yes, she does pull the football away from Charlie Brown and gives her brother a hard time about his security blanket, but I think it's time to re-examine Lucy and her motivations. In an article written by Benjamin Svetke in the Hollywood Reporter from January of 2016, he states this about Lucy's creator, and these are his words. He began drawing Charlie Brown and the rest of the Peanuts gang in 1950, an era of rigid gender stereotypes. Yet he was championing third-wave feminism decades before the second wave had begun to swell. Consider the girls in the gang. Lucy is a businesswoman running her own practice, charging 5 cents for therapy, who treats boys as either blockheads or, in the case of Beethoven-obsessed Schroeder, sex objects. Lucy was an early feminist leader when anyone takes the mantle of leadership, there will be those who will chafe against that leadership, especially if that leader is a woman. Unfortunately, we have all lived through this, and we've seen many examples. The big one, of course, was we saw this 4 years ago when a wannabe fascist and thoroughly unqualified man was elected president over a woman who was overqualified for the job. The vitriol that has been aimed at the political leaders in the states of Ohio and Michigan are higher because in Michigan, their governor and their attorney general are women. And while Ohio has a male governor, the leader of their health department is a woman, and she has been taking more fire than the governor there. And we're also seeing signs of not only just misogyny, but with a dab of racism that's aimed at our first woman vice president, Kamala Harris. So is it any shock that Lucy, a girl that realizes that normal Christmas presents won't really last, but real estate will, is seen as someone who is dangerous and mean to everyone? In doing research for this, I came across a quote from a conservative writer by the name of Christopher Caldwell, which shouldn't surprise any of you. He's a white guy. And he says, Lucy is no fuss budget. She's an American nightmare. At her best, she is the most terrifying character in the history of comics. When I first read that, I'm like, whoa there, buddy. It's just a character. Clearly, he is not a believer in the inherent worth and dignity of every person, especially if they're women. And how many women over the decades and centuries who are leaders have suffered because they wouldn't stay in their place? From Lucia to Teresa of Avila to Joan of Arc to Shirley Chisholm to Barbara Jordan, these and so many more who assumed leadership role positions suffered in some way because of it. For the rest of us who aren't afraid of women in leadership roles, they serve as a light that remind us of some of the better angels of our nature. Now, another aspect of Lucy's personality that gets overlooked is that she actually does have compassion for her friends in the Peanuts gang. Now, her way of looking out for others might come off as being mean, and while she does have her moments, she generally looks out for others. Yes, she does give her little brother Linus all kinds of guff about him dragging his blanket everywhere he goes. He even calls him names when she goes trick-or-treating while he's staying up all night at the pumpkin patch. But if you recall, she does make sure to get extra candy for him at the same time, and she eventually brings him in the house in the middle of the night and puts him to bed. It also seems that she is one of Charlie Brown's main antagonists, but she has compassion for him too. He comes to her near Christmas wondering what it's all about, and while she doesn't totally help him, she does give Charlie a purpose that helps him see that Christmas is bigger than just presents under the tree. It's something we all need in life, some kind of purpose, a way to make sense of our existence. Think of a person in your life, past or present, who helped give you some insight as to what you could do with this one wild, precious life. Maybe it didn't come from a pat on the back or a warm embrace. Maybe it came in the form of a kick in the rear. Sometimes we might not be ready to hear that message, but if someone loves us enough to make us realize that we are more than the sum of our parts, perhaps a good yank of the football might do us some good in the long run. And while I was reading, doing reading for what I was going to write today, I came across the homepage for the Charles Schulz Museum in Santa Rosa, California. They are currently running an exhibit entitled Lucy, ! Fuss Budget to Feminist. And the reason they're doing this is to mark the 100th anniversary of the passage of the 20th Amendment, which guaranteed women the right to vote. In the description of the exhibit, which is scheduled to run through next September, which maybe at that point people will actually be able to go and see and experience it. This is what the website states about this exhibit, or about Lucy. From her earliest moments as #1 fuss budget to in the early 1950s, to the empowered young lady who embodied the movement toward equality in the 60s, 70s, and beyond, there is no mistaking Lucy. Whether she's sharing sage advice from her psychiatric booth, contemplating against Schroeder's piano, or running from dog lips, Lucy can be counted as crabby, bossy, or even rude at times. But within it all, there is a young lady who is confident, compassionate, and ready to tackle anything, literally. Lucy Van Pelt embodies the same qualities that my wife mentioned earlier from the Gustavus Adolphus in Minnesota. And in that article from the Hollywood Reporter that I mentioned earlier, they interviewed a guy by the name of Steve Martino, who directed the Peanuts movie, which came out in 2015. And here's what he says about Lucy. And these are his words. If Lucy found out she wasn't being paid as much as Charlie Brown to be in my movie, I'd have definitely heard about it. The cameras would have stopped rolling until the pay and equity had been dealt with. We wouldn't be getting any more film in the can until it was fixed. May we all celebrate the Lucys and the Lucias in our lives, and may they all continue to inspire us all.
Sing a song with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you home when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream with me. Come dream a dream with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you home when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you home when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you home when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time.
All right, before we extinguish our chalice, what I want to do is at the end of this and as the sung benediction is playing, for Elkhart folks, if you want to go on another Zoom chat to do coffee hour with Reverend Navy, you may do so at that time. For the rest of us here at 4th U, we'll just stay on and do our virtual coffee hour here. So with that in mind, let's say the words on our screen as we extinguish our virtual chalices. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. We carry these in our hearts until we are together again. All right, so as we play our sung benediction, which is performed by those in the 4th UU congregation, if you wish to stick around here, you may, or switch over to Elkhart's virtual coffee hour.
What about the Q&A that we often do?
We can do that too.
In coffee hour or?
Yes, in coffee hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
And anybody can
long time sun shine upon you. All love surround you, and the pure